Welcome back from the commercial break, and this evening we are having a serious in-depth of the economic analysis of our country, and we are still with our dear guest, Honorable Banyanzach Henry. And Banyanzach Henry, we always privileged to recall, and indeed of even of now, how you continue to contribute, and with a passionate heart of looking at how Uganda we can have a stable economy. You were privileged to be part of the system. Whatever contribution you made, we still appreciate when you're the state minister in the office of the president for economic monitoring. And as we were just going for the commercial break, you were giving us the insight, analyzing the realities of what continue to affect the Uganda economic stability, and looking at transport and trade. Dear viewers, it's good and very important to hear from diverse ideas and views, and possibly have a correct line that can direct the economic progress of this country. Honorable, we've heard before, and through statements given, and most of our fellow countrymen and countrywomen end up either taking it with doubt or maybe with either understanding of it, which may not be the case, saying that the Ugandan economy has shrinked because of the Ukraine war, because of COVID, because of all that. But the in-depth you are bringing to our attention, and the attention of the policymakers out there and the fellow business community, just enjoy your talk show as we continue together in this discussion. You're welcome once again to continue where you had reached, sir.
To continue where I reached, let me first even say something about those excuses of saying that our economy has shrunk because of the Ukraine war, some other factors, others will talk about COVID, but the current one, the most current one, is about Ukraine war. These are just excuses. The reason why our economy is shrinking are internal weaknesses. As I was talking about, let me go back to transport sector.
Yes, sir.
Whereby you see our trade is shrinking because of the mode of the cost of doing business.
Business, yes.
And here we are talked about inefficiencies within the legal system. You see, the moment we are using this road transport, the moment the cost of fuel went high, everything has gone so high. Had we been having the railway system which is operational, the cost of doing business wouldn't be going that high. We would be getting our maize from Kasese by railway, we would be getting our goods from Arua by railway, we would be getting Irish potatoes from Kabarek-Soro by railway, but there is nothing at all. And what was there before, 25 years back, it has shrunk completely. For example, now in 2005, 2001, 2005, the market share which was on freight, which used to use railway, was 12% of the freight. Now it's only 3% of what we use. So which means, as I have told you, it dived from 840,000 tons to 200,000 tons. So what we used to be then, to be transported then by railway, it's not being transported anymore. Even when you talk about, we are talking about cargo, talk about passengers, then, sometime then, people would come from Fort Portal on train. It was cheaper to come to Kampala. That explains why we have so many Batembei who are Batoro, sorry to say, because they used to have cheaper means of transport, even from Arua, but now it's not there. The only passenger train that we have is here and in Namambe, in the morning and in the afternoon. That's why, for example, we even have traffic jams. If we had a functional railway system, metropole transport system for passengers, we wouldn't be having these jams. But let me restrict myself on cargo, because that's what does business. Because of, I have told you, because of the mismanagement within Uganda Railways, we have had to make losses. I had said 37 billion shillings in 2021.
2021, yes.
In 2020, we had made 66. And all these things are documented in the Auditor General, Auditor General's report.
Auditor General's.
To the extent that even it documents how much land we have lost in Uganda Railways down there. 100 billion.
Who sold it?
Of course, mismanagement within the government system. Okay. Those who are in Uganda Railways, they don't have land titles. Land has been grabbed. Land has been misallocated. So there's no land that belongs to railway anymore. So that means mismanagement and corruption. Where we used to have lines of railways, they have built there. If you go to 8th Street, 7th Street, you find where what used to be a lines railway going to Mukwano, it is now they have built over it. So this kind of irregularities and corruption and what our locomotives that were taken to Nairobi when it was under the LVR and they are not being returned. The old ones cannot be serviced because they are obsolete. Even we are using an obsolete system that cannot be revitalized. You can't even get spares. All this affect the railway system. So the railway system that we have is in a poor state that revitalizing it would even be much more expensive. And for example, by the way, I wish by the time the government of Uganda took a decision to invest those trillions in the Uganda Airlines, I wish they had put it in railways. Because we are an agricultural country.
I agree.
We have a comparative advantage on agriculture. So most of our cargo is agriculture. So if you see what is happening at Entebbe, most of the people, we are taking people, exporting labor, human capital. That's human capital, by the way. Those are Ugandans who would have been doing production. We are now exporting them to be house girls and house boys in the United Arab Emirates and those Arab countries. You okay? But you can imagine if these people were to stay here and they were producing, they were doing growing coffee, tea, cocoa, maize, whatever you talk about it, how much wealth they would have created. So I, for one, it's never too late, but let Uganda now invest into railway system, water system. We have the biggest water body in Africa, in the world maybe, but how are we using it? How are you using the better ways? Yes. The inland port that we are talking about, Port Bear, it is now dead. That is a port. We have talked about, we have sung a song of a new port across another new port to be built by the Chinese, but it's not taking off. So if it is not taking off, why can't we use Port Bear? Do you know the economy that is being held around Lake Victoria, on Lake Victoria itself alone, even the islands, that economy is in billions, is in trillions, trillion shillings, it's in billions of dollars. Look at what is being produced at the islands. How do they reach the market, Kampala? Are we trading with Kisumu? Are we trading with Manza? We would even be trading with Burundi, even Rwanda. But we are not taking care of that. So the kind of petroleum products that we are talking about, transportation of petroleum products, we are now talking about it. I think there is a company which has put up reserves, petrol reserves in Kauku. We are now thinking about it, but it has not taken off. We never know when it's not taken. That is the way to go. Revitalize water transport on Lake Victoria, revitalize the railway system to bring the cost of doing business at a low price. So, as a country, we need to invest in this sector of transport. We need to invest in the railway system. If we are talking about railway system, by now you have been talking about, singing about the iron ore in Muko, Rwanda, Kabale for that matter, Greater Kabale. You cannot transport that, the products, whether you are going to make a factory, whether you are going to make that iron ore, you can't transport it without a railway system. You cannot use that iron ore on road. You have no road in a short time. The cost of maintaining that road will be very high. That is why the cost of maintaining a road, for example, Tororo Road, is very high because of these roads which go to pick cement. Why should we be picking cement from Tororo to the market in Kampala by roads only? Pick cement from Hima, Kasese by roads only. It should be coming by railway. It would be much more cheaper. It would be bringing the cost of doing the cost of construction even much lower, because it would put the cost of cement by almost like 25%, because the transport, the biggest cost is on transport. So to revitalize the trade sector and to have economic stability is definitely to tackle the issue of transport as one of the modes, as one of the components that factors into this trade. So there is no alternative. When we compare ourselves with the countries like Kenya, Kenya has already discovered, has already woke up. That's why, for example, in the passenger between Nairobi and Mombasa, it's now by a railway system.
From Nairobi to Mombasa?
Yes. It takes, I think it takes about 5 hours from Mombasa, because they are using these high-speed railways. They are even using, they are even extending it to Kisumu. Even cargo. There is a cargo terminal in Nairobi. Because we are not doing our part, because we have not done our part, the cargo terminal that is coming up to Kisumu, I think, I don't have the data now, it could be on the course, but it has delayed. So once we have this railway, the Trans-African railway, we are now talking of the East African community. You have the railway from Mombasa to the coast, the eastern coast of Congo. Can you imagine how much trade would be doing if we had a railway system coming from Mombasa to Kampala to Goma to the coast of Congo, which has entered into the East African community. If we had the railway up to South Sudan, we have a railway up to Rwanda, we have a railway up to Burundi, we have a railway in Tanzania, it is working. Can you imagine, can you conceptualize how much trade would be doing? Can you conceptualize how much maize we would be selling, for example? We would be feeding the whole of Africa. But because we have not revitalized this kind of enabling environment, enabling factors, that's why you hear that Uganda is depending wheat on Ukraine. Can you imagine? Wheat which can be grown in Kigezi. But a war happens in Ukraine, and then we say the cost of bread has gone high because wheat, we can't have enough wheat. Can you imagine? Yet wheat we can grow it. The whole of Kigezi can grow wheat. The whole of Western Nile can grow wheat. The whole of Gwenzori can grow wheat. But we are not doing it. We are depending on Ukraine. We have to set our priorities right. We have to set our priorities right and invest in the productive sector, such as sector like transport sector. We invest in this railway system. We invest in the water transport system on Lake Victoria. We could even use our River Nile.
10 years ago, we had, and it is still ongoing, the unresolved question to complete the standard gauge railway.
Yes.
And a number of excuses as well have been given, and yet it remains, information which is private to most of our fellow, citizens. For Kenya and Tanzania, it is believed it was very easy and much more faster to complete it at certain time before the death of Magufuli. It was flagged off.
Yes.
And it was supposed to be connecting to Uganda.
Yes.
Then for Kenya, it was also flagged off.
Yes.
Then for us here, it is believed
Still a dream.
from time to time, one of the questioned challenge or stated challenge looks to be the legal land legal framework of the land policy, the legal framework. And again, it is believed by observers that the cost of completing the standard gauge railway is seemingly to be higher in Uganda than elsewhere where it's already complete. I saw the flagging off of the railway, and all of us were happy when it was done in Tanzania, when it was done in Kenya. What has gone wrong with our country, especially in regard to that specific project?
You have said partially you have answered what you're asking for. The cost of constructing the railway system in Uganda being much more higher than Kenya and Tanzania. Why? Because we have not poor negotiators who want to add on the Anjauro.
The commissions.
Yes. Commission negotiators. The negotiators, they add up the Anjauro. But this had been resolved in such a way that they were negotiating as one bloc of East Africa. Of course, but because those Njaurists, those who are making Njaurists, had to make a reason as to why Uganda's nani has to be very expensive. Talk about money. We are crossing so many, there are rivers to cross, there are bridges to make, it is mountainous, it is, a plateau, it is the terrain, which would not even hold much water. But even if the case would be, why have we not implemented the program? Because we are poor implementers. The projects and programs in this government, the implementation is very poor. Implementation is very poor. You are talking about land compensation. It is not the case. The case is because in this compensation, they are not again, they are these injurists again. They make it so difficult in the compensation process that sometimes they hike the prices, sometimes they delay, sometimes, so they do not provide the way lives as fast as it could. I can tell you that I have an experience. There is one place that I know of, which is almost a distance of about 500 meters, where they are negotiating where lives. It has taken 4 years to negotiate that half kilometer, and now the project is implemented the other side, done the other side, and the other side is also done. But here, where it is 500 meters, they are still in negotiation. So they did it a lot. The other day I was seeing the president, our president, President Museveni, apologizing to his fellow heads of state. And he was apologizing to the extent that Ugandans, 12%.
We are asleep.
Yeah, we are asleep, we don't care. When who was singing of the achievements that have been done into this railway sector, our president did not have anything to say but to apologize that we have not done our part. But why have we not done our part? Because of those poor implementers. And who supervises those poor implementers? I think the president should whip the whip, put the right people into the right position to perform. Because when you have the right people put in the right position to perform, they will perform. And this one has happened, where we have had people who are performers and they are put in those positions, they are performed. Sometime back in this Kampala, we had Jane from CC. Much he did her part, much as he didn't, he may not have done 100%, but you can see what he did. We have had some other implementers like UNRA, where we have had Kajina in UNRA. You can see what she has done, much as we are talking about rationalizing that agency also. But once we have the right people, you can see what was done into this identity card project before the late General Ronda died. the project which had failed to take off. The moment Leti Aronda took over that ministry, the project took off. So we have so many projects which reach the time of maturity, but at the time it's looking, we borrow money for a project to be implemented for 5 years, but you find by the time we reach the expire of that project, only like 10% or 20% of that project is done. That's why, like for example, this railway project failed. Those who were supervising the concession of RVR did not do their job. At the end of the day, we ended up making losses compounded together in $1 trillion plus. So whereas RVR, which is operating in Kenya, and they are being supervised, they are doing well, but here they could not do better. No wonder our wagons were retained in Kenya. So we need to have a committed personnel. We need to have skilled personnel. We need to have well-trained people. We need to have good managers. We need to have what it takes. If we are talking about Lake Victoria, why can't we build cargo ships there? Why? Why can't we build cargo ships? It is easy. The Chinese are here, they have built a cargo ship. There is a cargo ship which has been built at Kauku for transportation of oil transport by a private sector, a Chinese. We as a government do that. So there is something we need to do. We need to do better. When we are talking about these railways,
yes, please.
We can even go to air transport.
Yes, please.
When we talk about air transport, for example, as I told you, we concentrated on passenger flights, passengers, taking people to Dubai, taking people to South Africa, taking people to Cheyo, taking people who
exporting even much more unskilled labor, which is dangerous.
Exporting labor, exporting human capital. Why couldn't we concentrate and have a cargo transport system? Uganda, when you look at Uganda, as we had said before, it is very endowed with agriculture, horticulture. Let's say horticulture, that is when we talk about vegetables, fruits. We are much more endowed, we are much more gifted. And horticulture business in Uganda can turn around the economy. But how much are we doing in horticulture? Even a country like Kenya, which is not endowed with that conditions, it's doing much more better than us. But had we revitalized the cargo transport, we would be exporting. What are we taking to Somalia? We only transport their guns to go and fight.
Soldiers,
soldiers and guns. And we are doing soldiers and guns. Kenya is taking the cargo, food.
To Somalia.
Yes.
And since it is a dry
we
land.
go to Sudan, we went to Sudan and liberated Sudan. Who's doing trade with them? Ethiopia.
Ethiopia is doing much more.
Who's supplying tea to Sudan? Who is supplying tea to Egypt? Who is supplying coffee to these Sudanese? Ethiopia. Where are we Ugandans? So, if we were to revitalize even cargo system, cargo transport system, before I went even for, passengers, let's have, if we had done the half investment that we have done into these aeroplanes, some of which are seated on the airport and have not taken off, if we had invested into cargo,
yes,
then we would be doing cargo transport, agricultural products. In Kinshasa, we would be exporting meat there, beef. We would be exporting beef. We would be having a market share within the intra-Africa trade. So what are we doing in intra-Africa trade? You cannot do the intra-Africa trade using road transport. You cannot do intra-African trade. You cannot export maize to Malawi using road transport.
You can't.
But with the railway system, you can.
That's right.
With cargo transport, you can.
That's right.
With road, you can't. So if you are talking about revitalizing the trade sector for economic stability. Do railway transport, do cargo transport, do less on road transport. You can use road transport to get the produce from the farms to the stores. Okay? But the stores, the agricultural hubs, should be as nearer as possible to the railway transport system, to the port, like what we are talking about, Port Bay. And then you will be home and dry. This economy will be booming. We wouldn't be crying. We would be feeding the whole of Africa. Okay? We are having, like I said, you go to Kabale now and see the kind of, go to Kabale, go to Elgon, see the kind of onions being produced there. Where are we trading them? We are just looking at Moroka market, Kampala. But do you know how much onion is consumed in Nigeria, for example? Spices, Butambara, very good for this Tangawuzi. So there is a lot that this country can do. When you go to all over this central region, avocado, has avocado that we are talking about. But because we are not focusing into this sector, we are not investing into this sector, we are not investing into the productive sector, and all we are doing is investing into consumptive sector. Yeah? We are investing into high, the most latest bills for these high officials, the most latest Land Cruisers,
2 billion
for the ministers and directors and commissioners. You get? Had we reduced and said that instead of buying the most latest bills for a speaker, let him use, what is this, where is the speaker going? He's in Kampala.
She's in Kampala.
It is from Kororo, let's say Kororo to Parliament. Do you need the most? Do you need the most expensive vehicle? Huh? That Benz can buy about 5 locomotives. Okay? If you are saying it can buy about 5 locomotives, you reduce on these high utility vehicles, this Manyakwat, special utility Manyawat, SUVs. Reduce on those. Buy locomotives. Buy cargo plane. Okay? And then you see, invest in agriculture, put the money in agriculture.
Okay, thank you so much.
And make it happen.
Thank you so much, Honorable. We are very happy with your analytical point of view. Our dear viewers outside there, as we are about to go for the commercial break, we have all this kind of discussion and presentation, and I pray that you'll be able even to make a publication in the form of article into some newspaper, because your submissions were much more educative, analytical, with objectivity. Not as a,
you to team with me since
not as a politician, but indeed as someone who has had experience, even being a member of the Uganda Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Right? And you are passionate. You are not only just a member, but you have the passion for commerce and for economic stability.
And trade.
Yes. And again, I'm very happy with your submission, without reserving these words, that your attachment sometimes back in government to have been a state minister in the very area of economic monitoring. You deserved more than that. And I do look at the way how you've articulated these issues relating to the economic reforms to revitalize the transport and the transport and also the trade sector. It leaves a lot wanting. And I believe the policymakers outside there, those who may even take such information to the executive, and those who do it very well, these are areas to concentrate on, because as we come for us as SMART24 TV, we tend not to come to lament over problems. And our guest is very clear as he brings out a number of ways, a number of gaps which needs to be addressed, so that our businessmen and the businesswomen there who've been suffering, saying, what can we do, Ugandans? There is what you can do. Team up together, come to the committees, maybe of parliament or through members of parliament, let petitions be made, which is calling for such attention. We do call upon vigilancy of our citizens. These are areas worth to think about. Stay tuned on SMART24 TV. We are going for a commercial break. We will come back for another session to do much more critical analysis in this. Thank you.
Thank you.